All right, our next topic today is going to be clear cutting. And so let me pull up the notes here and let's go ahead and talk about it. So clear cutting is essentially when humans move into an area and they basically cut down all of the trees that are available in the area, or they'll selectively cut trees. And so the direct effects of clear cutting include the following. The first being soil erosion. This is because we have now caused the loss of the stabilizing root structure that is holding the soil together. And so when the tree is gone, the roots die. And then the soil is not going to be held by the roots any longer. Another issue, so this causes, directly soil erosion. And then because erosion is occurring, it removes all of that organic matter that we find in the topsoil. Excuse me. And also the nutrients that would be deposited by the biomass of the dying plants, the dying trees. Excuse me. And then the soil erosion is also going to deposit sediments in local streams. And when this happens, this actually warms the water. And so extra sediment in the water actually increases the water temperature, and it also makes it more cloudy or more turbid, we call that. And I think we talked about that when we talked about some properties of water, that turbidity means cloudiness in the water. Okay. And so another direct effect of clear cutting would be an increased soil temperature, the soil that is where the trees used to be. So the trees used to provide shade, which kept the soil at a certain temperature range. Now the trees are gone, the sunlight's going to hit the soil, it's going to raise the temperature of the soil, and any organisms that were living there are now potentially going to be thrown out of their range of tolerance. They'll be moved into their range of intolerance or their stress levels, and so it won't be in that optimal range. So this increases that soil temperature. Soil actually has a lower albedo than does the leaves of trees. And so that's what increases that temperature. And then the loss of tree shade along the rivers and the streams that might be in that forested area are also going to increase in temperature. And so, again, that could be an issue for any of the aquatic organisms that are living within their range of tolerance in that shady stream. Now they're going to be thrown outside of that range of tolerance. And again, the erosion from those sediments are also going to heat up the river. So we've kind of got like a double whammy. We've got soil eroding into the stream, increasing the temperature, and then also the lack of shade now that is increasing the temperature as well. So that's kind of a negative for that. And then we've got flooding and landslides that can occur because of the lack of tree roots that are holding the soil together. And one reason for this is that the logging machinery actually compacts the soil. And so now the water won't flow into the groundwater. It's going to run. It's more like an impervious surface, more like concrete. And that water will run directly into the river instead of being absorbed, some of it being absorbed by the ground. And then increased sunlight also dries out the soil. So when it gets dried out, then when it rains really heavy, soil can then, we can have landslides that are being created because of the really, really dry soil. That loss of root structure, like we talked about, allows for excess erosion. So all of these factors just decrease the water holding capacity of the soil, which again is what causes the flooding and then those landslides. Okay, and so we have two pictures here. This is like before clear cutting occurs, and then this is what happens after the clear cutting occurs. So usually when lands are deforested, the company that's doing the logging has to actually replant trees, but many times what is replanted is just a lower biodiverse forest. Many times it's like a monoculture where it's just all the exact same type of tree that goes in. So that creates a very not diverse, mature forest. It creates a single species forest. Less biodiversity or less species biodiversity is going to equal lower resilience after a disturbance, so that's an issue. And then it'll also create less habitat diversity for other organisms that are normally calling that forest home. The other issue is that all of these trees are the same age because they were all planted at the same time, and so this lowers the diversity even further. There's no dead trees for habitat, for organisms, or for woodpeckers to feed upon insects that might live there, or for insects to live and actually scavenge or decompose the organic material, and then the decomposers aren't able to live in that area either. So those are all just issues with biodiversity. And then what exactly are forest benefits? Like, why do we want the trees to be there? There's kind of three things that occur. And I'm sorry, my dog is like jumping up on the table because he really wants me to hold him right now. But the first thing is that trees filter out air pollutants. They have these holes on the bottom of their leaves called stomata. Those are leaf pores that actually remove VOCs, or volatile organic compounds, which are a type of air pollution, from the atmosphere. They also remove nitrous oxide and particulate matter. We're going to learn in Unit 7 that these are all types of air pollution. And so this air pollution actually goes into the stomata of the leaves with the carbon dioxide and the oxygen gases. And then it's like stored in the tissues of the plant. So it's not necessarily the best for the plant, but it helps to filter out some of those chemicals from the environment for us and for other organisms, and it stores those chemicals in the trees. It also removes and stores carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, which helps us with greenhouse effect or climate change. So that's actually a good thing. And then also it provides habitat for organisms. This would be a good picture to sort of look through to see how important trees are for pollution. Okay, and then the consequences of deforestation. Well, it reduces, again, those air filtering and carbon storing services. It cuts trees down, when we cut trees down, it releases CO2 from decomposition of that leftover organic material. So even more carbon dioxide is not being absorbed by the trees, but also even more carbon dioxide is going into the atmosphere. And then the slash and burn method of clearing land for agriculture by cutting down those trees actually releases a lot of greenhouse gases as well. And it also releases water vapor into the atmosphere. All of this leads to climate change, which is a real problem. And so now we've got our practice FRQ for 5.2. Describe 2 ecosystem services that are provided by humans, or for forests by humans by forests. Let's see if I can say this correctly. And then explain how clear cutting would affect each ecosystem service that you describe. Okay, and our next topic is going to be the Green Revolution. And if you have any questions, make sure you ask me in class, guys. I'll see you soon.